This video is the start of the restoration of an NSU Quickly TT. This bike, I bought it on eBay and I didn't look at it closely enough before I purchased it and when I bid on it. The bike is original, I have papers to state so, but the wheels that have been attached to it are off of, I think, a Zundap, and also the handlebars. This unit here is not a Quickly TT. The rest of the bike is original, but I'm after buying all the parts. I bought a new swing arm, or a second-hand swing arm, and I have the wheels for that, and I'm after buying the mudguard for the back, which was chopped off just at that section there, and a different piece of a mudguard attached. The suspensions, I think there's something slightly different about them as well, but it'll come out in the wash when I'm stripping it. So I'm actually stripping it at the present time. I've already taken off the carrier. I don't think this carrier was original, but I've taken that off. And I've taken off the saddle and undid the bolts holding it there. And it looks pretty good inside, isn't it? There was some sort of a derusting red lead or something put on it at some stage, but anyway, I'll clean all that up at a later stage. So that's what it looks like at the present time. Before I do the next section, which is taking off the tank. Okay, I've taken off the two bolts here, one at each side, and there are two other ones there underneath holding it, and there's a kind of a rubber strappy thing for the fuel line that goes around here, so that's on that there as well. So that's the petrol tank off. That's what it's looking like now. Okay, I'm taking off the side cowling off of the engine there now. There's just one cheesehead bolt holding it in place, just so that it doesn't get damaged. Right, I've undone the bolts that were holding this piece of mudguard attached there, which is not the correct mudguard. This is the correct mudguard for a Quickly TT, which I purchased on eBay. So that's the correct one. We'll put that on later when we get it all cleaned up and everything. To try, right, I'm going to have to try and take off this light here now. Hopefully the screw will play ball with me. Good news, the screw played ball and it came off easy. There was a lot of old tape holding this in place here, I presume, to stop the water from going in. I didn't recognise myself. I thought I was somebody else. I jumped out of the way. So I can disconnect the light now. There's somebody in the bathroom, you know, and turned around and looked, take the back. Right, now I've taken off that back piece of mudguard. Here it is. So I must take off that light off of it. Again, that light is not part of the NSU Quickly TT.
It is, yeah, it's not, yeah, that was my reaction.
It's a Quickly T and it's a similar light that's on the back of it.
What do you think is ceramic?
That's it there.
Well, I think it sounds like an ornament. Or tiles.
That's what it's like. No, there's the glass and stuff like that isn't on it. I have them elsewhere. I'll put them on there. Okay, I've loosened all the bolts on this cowling here, which is attached to the other mudguard, and that's the mudguard over there that should be on it, but I'll fix that back on when I'm restoring the bike back to when it's all completely cleaned. Now I've got to get this cowling off here, so the first thing I've done is I've taken off the carburetor. I must now take off these cables to get at that. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'll probably take them off of the engine, but I might actually go and take them off of the handlebars. I'll see how I'll go. Okay, I've taken off the clutch at the far side, which was easy to do, and the carburetor is off, so I now have two cables coming down. So I'm taking off this cover here, and one is the gear change, or maybe both of them are actually the gear change, because it's possibly a 3-speed gear actually. Yeah, that's probably what it is. So I'm going to disconnect that next and get them out through the cover. Okay, I'm after taking off the what is it, the gear change, and I try to take off the handlebars, but for some reason they just keep swiveling around, so I'm actually taking off the whole unit and see if the whole thing will come off. I may have to take off other things. It looks as if I probably will, to get it off, but anyway, I'll come back to it later once I have the whole swing arm. Okay, I've taken off the front wheel, swing arm, that whole unit complete, which was off of a different motorbike. We can now see the engine, and I'm now after taking off the exhaust pipe, and I've started taking off this top panel here. There's a long bolt goes through there, and there's a shorter one goes through here. Here it is. So that unit should come off now, which is what the mudguard is attached to. Having trouble with the bolt here. There's something on top of it, whatever it is, but anyway. Okay, this wheel is not belong to a Quickly TT, so once I'll take that off, I'll have to discard it. It has ZZR written on the hub, whatever that's about, whatever type of machine it's off of. Okay, that's it for the... Right, I've taken off the suspension at that side there. It's come off pretty easy. The one at the other side, I'll have to have a go at that nut again, but this one is after coming off easily enough. So that's what it looks like now. Right, I'm now taking off the chain tensioner at the back to take off the back wheel. Okay, I've just taken off the chain, and the back wheel now should slip off. You don't have to drive out the bolt with this hub for some reason. It should slot down and out there. Right, I have the mudguard off, and I've just taken off the engine, and I was hoping that I could leave the gear changer in place, but nothing is easy. It goes through there, so to get this away from the engine, I'm going to have to unscrew the gear change over there. Okay. Right, the NSU Quickly TT is fully disassembled, and this is the swing arm that should have been on the front of the bike, which I purchased on eBay. These are the correct handlebars and two of the correct suspensions. The suspensions that were on it there, the correct suspensions, but they're missing the cone off of the bottom. The rest of the things there, so we'll have to get them all cleaned off now and start reassembling the whole thing. And that's actually that's the correct mudguard for the front of it. It's the same as the Quickly T. Today I'm going to start reassembling the NSU Quickly TT. These are the majority of the parts here, some of which have been powder coated, and I've noticed on the powder coating that it's a really nice finish and very tough compared to spray painting with spray cans. The suspensions, I've cleaned them off myself and done all that myself. The pedals I've done, and those two bolts I've done, and the brake lever I've done that as well. The rest of the items were powder coated. I have to paint some of the section on that one there, which has to be a kind of an off-white colour. The petrol tank couldn't be powder coated because there was lead soldering on it, and it's at the moment going to have some holes in it, brazed. So we'll get on now and start reassembling it. With the front swing arm there now, and with most Quickly T and TTs, there's a little rubber, I don't know, what would you call it, it's to cushion the shock, I suppose, of the swing arm inside in the other mechanism there. And I haven't seen them for sale anywhere. I've never seen them on eBay, so I found some kind of light rubber material, and I did another Quickly TT some time ago, and I used this on it as well, so it worked. So what I did was I put some paper down over a full sheet of paper. Actually, I put a full sheet of paper down over it and marked it as I was going, and eventually I ended up with this piece of paper here, and then I transferred it onto this here, and again I put it on and I push it down, then I take another piece off, and eventually you get it to fit down. So that goes down there like so. There's four bolt holes there, so I cut them out as well. So that's that done, and that's it there, number 14 in the book. Now I've just noticed that I have the two of these which I got cleaned, but that's all I've got of them. There's a bush missing out of here, here, here and here. So I have some other ones off of Quicklys that I'm taking the bushes out of, just to use them anyway for this section here. So at least out of the two of those, I have to try and find something for these now. They might possibly be the same. Actually, try one of these and see how it fits. No, they're much smaller. So I'll have to go on eBay and try and find some, if I can find something else among all the other bits and pieces of Quicklys that I have. Right, I'm putting the front mudguard and the front swing arm together because inside here there's a square nut, and then you put an M8 nut through with a spring washer, a bolt with a spring washer on it, and you tighten it up on it. So that's that done there. I must do the other side now as well. So I must put in a square screw and put in an M8 bolt. The M8 bolt is approximately 40 millimeters long. I found that to be the best length. It doesn't give the length in the book, so That's the one I'm using, an M8 by 40mm. That's the square nut inside there that fits inside in a little rectangular slot at the side of the mudguard, and stops it from spinning around then when you're tightening the bolt on it. So now I have the two bottom suspension parts put on. The next thing to do is to put on the suspension units themselves. What I do have to do is to get a bush to fit in here to stop it from swinging around. I have attached the front suspension at this side here now, and that's how it goes on there, and there's a little cover that goes over it like so, which is screwed at the back. There's a screw goes in at the back in that hole there at the opposite side. So I'll leave it there a while. This section goes on here now, but there's a bush to go in there to stop it from riding around, because when you put this pin through, and of course it won't go through for me now when I'm videoing, but when that goes through there, this keeps doing that, which will wear. So I have to get those bushes. I'll put the pins in there initially, but I will get the bush and take those things out again and put them all back in when I have the bush. One suspension, right, that's one suspension at that side there now, and that's how that's screwed on there. So I'm now going to do the other side here. Okay, that front mudguard section now with the suspensions is done, and what I've done there is I've actually put two bolts on it there. There are 4 holes. This looks to be for a cable. It's a possibility that this could be a cable as well, I'm not sure. I've put 2 bolts initially on it anyway. I've been trying to look at the book to see what it says, but there's no mention of putting bolts on it, but I'm almost certain when I took off the Quickly T previously that there were bolts there to hold the mudguard together onto that section. Now I'm just going checking and putting a few bits back that I had taken apart. I have a photograph here of what I took off, which is this here. This is turned that way. I've just put that back in there, and the other one goes in at this side here, and then this bolt goes through the whole assembly. So I'll put that together next, I think. Now that's the way it's going together. I have the bolt put in like so. And it's out the other side. Okay. So I assumed that there was a spring washer at that side, but I'm not sure. But I'll put a spring washer on it anyway, just to be on the safe side. Okay, the next piece to go on is this piece here, which this bar goes through there, and there's another bar goes through there. The saddle sits on top of this section. Now that's that part bolted on there. If I can get it to stand. Let's see what it looks like. Okay. The next piece I'm going to put on is the mudguard. This is the correct mudguard for the Quickly TT, which wasn't originally on this vehicle. Somebody had taken it off or cut it off. So the next thing to do now is to attach this. It attaches there, and up there. So that's the next thing to do. Now I'm after putting 2 bolts there on the bottom section. These 2 bolts here, they actually screw into the frame itself because that section is actually threaded. Now there were just 20mm bolts I used. I could have used shorter ones, but I didn't have them. So I've actually put 2 nuts, I've started the nuts for the bolts from that side there, and I've put the nuts on at that side because it was easier. And then there's another fixing up here where it lines up to go through there. The next thing now, I'm going to put the swing arm onto the main frame itself, and there are 42 5mm diameter ball bearings required. 21 of them go here and the other 21 go on the top section. So that's the next process. 21 ball bearings installed there now on the bottom race. I'll put the main frame down over that there now. Now that's the main frame attached to the front swing arm. So I must now put grease in here and the other 21 ball bearings. And that part down there by the frame goes on to keep them in place, and then the nuts to hold the 2 together. Okay, I've installed 21 ball bearings there now, and this is the new piece that goes on here. Goes down there. Okay, I must just line up the ball bearings a bit better with it. That's in place there now, and this one goes down on top of it, and then this bolt holds it in place. Get a spanner to tighten it down. Okay, the bolt is tightened down there now. What I've used is, I've used this box spanner, 36 mil end. Sometimes you have to use the 34 mil end for other bolts. So that's ready for the handlebars now, which I don't have at the moment. I have a pair of Quickly T handlebars, but they actually are the wrong ones, so we'll have to crack on with doing other things. Today I'm putting the tyre on tube on the front wheel. I've cleaned up that wheel. I didn't think I had some, but I had bought some a couple of years back, and I have spare ones there, so this one is after cleaning up pretty good. So I'm putting the tyre and tube on now today. Tyre on first initially, and then put the tube on before we put the other side of the tyre on. The tyre is on now. I just have to put some air on the wheel. And I'll tell you something, I don't envy anyone that actually fits tyres every day, especially if they're fitting motorcycle tyres and trying to use tools that are probably not the correct ones. But anyway, it's on now anyway.
that. And
the tyre now.
staying with the political question, does a government...
The wheel is on. I just did the spring here in a red colour just to give it a small bit of quirkiness. I think that wheel now looks pretty good. It's been a long day cleaning it up and getting the whole thing sorted. So that's how it's looking at the moment. That's the front section done. The next thing to probably do now would be to tackle the rear wheel. This is the rear wheel now for the NSU Quickly TT. I have cleaned it up and I have put on the rubber around there, and I have taken the brake apart, cleaned it up. That's the cog wheel for it, and the spring as well here for the brake lever. So it looks pretty good, and now I can put on the tyre and the tube. I've just completed the rear wheel there now. I had to change the hub. I was working on this hub, but when you're trying to put a bike back together that someone else has desiccated, I found that it wouldn't fit. We had it all sorted, so I had to go rummaging to find another one. Luckily enough I found one in my box of spares, and that completes the rear wheel, so I'm now going to fit it. Actually a mistake. It wouldn't be a good idea to put the back wheel on at this stage. I have to install the wiring harness first, so that's the next thing to do. I've installed the wiring harness there now, and I've just strapped it onto the frame there just temporarily. The wire going to the engine and the wire going to the taillight. And inside here under the wheel, it goes through those holes in the frame there, and it comes out nicely then out through the back section here. So that's that. I think what I'm going to do next, actually, before I put on the wheel, is put on the rear suspensions, even though I'm waiting on bushes to come from Germany to fit in here, but I can undo them when they come and install them before I install the wheel. Right, just go through the suspension there when it attaches to here. The first thing you do is put on this rubber, then this cap, and this cap has a little lug on the top of it that sits in there like that. Then on top of that you put another rubber, and then the other cap, that's the other metal cap that goes on top, and then the bolts go down onto that to hold it in place. Both the rear suspensions are in place there now. I still haven't put a bolt through that down there. I'm going to fit the wheel and do that when the bushes arrive. So that's the other side there on as well. Now I've installed the back wheel. I must put on the chain tensioners yet, and I did have to put in the pin in here because it was unstable and it kept pulling out. So I managed to get it in place now anyway, and it's installed. So that's what it's looking like at the present time. Have a look at the book. Let's see the book. shine for some reason. This is the saddle that came off of the NSU Quickly TT, which is a Denfield. And as I said in the video when I was taking the bike apart, it appears to have red lead applied to the interior here, and most of the springs look pretty good. Slight rust here and there. So what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to take off this attaching part here at the side if I can. Take off the Denfield sign. Take the cover off because I'll have to get a new cover made for it. Okay, this is the saddle of the NSU TT. I've just stripped the cover off of it, which is there, and I've taken all the springs off. I wasn't going to, but I found that this really needs to be completely cleaned off and repainted. The pieces at the sides are not in great shape, so it looks as if I'm going to have to replace them wherever I'm going to come across them. There seem to be special little nuts with a funny looking top on them that slides along the actual piece of the that goes at the side of the saddle. Anyway, we'll look into that later. The new handlebars have arrived. Well, they're not new, they're old handlebars that have been re-chromed, but they're in pretty good condition. They just arrived from Germany this morning, so they look pretty good there now on that. But I won't be doing any more to that until I get the headlight cowling. I'm trying to source a second-hand one because they're 200 and something euro to buy them new, so we'll try and get a second-hand one if we can. This morning I've been putting the saddle seat back together. As you can see, I have all the springs back on. Now, a word of caution when you're doing something like this. When you take these off, that unit and that unit, put them on a piece of paper and mark each individual one as to where they go. Because I lost 3 of them, and it took me quite a while to figure out where they were going back into place, even though I had photographs and a video of it. It's still difficult, so put them all out on a piece of paper or a board or something and mark each one individually. I've cleaned the whole thing off and I have painted it with black paint. I just need to give it a small bit of a touch up now, and this is actually stainless material I've used here, so it won't rust anyway, but I'll still recoat the whole thing. So the seat cover is on the way for it, so I'll be able to put it back together completely. I've just applied a piece of leathery kind of material which was actually on it when I took it off, and I've just put it on with four ties just to keep it in place. And then this is the foam that came off of it, and it's in pretty good condition. I think it's good enough to go back anyway. It's dry, so now we just have to, that's the old cover. I'm just waiting on the new cover to come by post, and I'll put it on. This is the NSU Quickly TT 3-speed engine, which has been vapor blasted and I'm now starting to take it apart to clean it all internally. I've just started here by taking off this circlip so that I can take off this rear brake lever. So that's where I'm at the moment. Brake lever is off now, and we can see another circlip there which must be taken off. So that's the next procedure. Now I've taken off that circlip, and you can see from underneath where the circlip was how dirty this engine was before it was vapor blasted. The thing to do now is to take out the plug, which I've loosened already, so that's going to come out. I thought I had it loosened. Then I'm going to take off this top head here with 4 bolts, spring washers, etc. And then I'm going to take off this top head here. Okay, I've taken off the 4 nuts. There's meant to be spring washers, but there wasn't actually spring washers in it. So the inside looks a bit black, that need a bit of cleaning. There actually is no gasket there, so whoever put it back, it may be that they used the gasket out of a tube. So the next process now is to take this section off. Right, luckily enough on this engine, it's starting to come up for me. A lot of the time you'll find that the piston is going to be stuck to this, which can be very difficult to get off. But what I've done there is I've just given with a rubber mallet, I've given it a couple of taps. The important thing is to try and not to break any of the fins. So that's the... I'll come back to it now once I have that completely off. It's coming off, but there's still a bit of resistance from the piston because the piston rings in there are probably fairly seized up, but it's coming slowly. Right, it's off. I had to give it a couple of taps of the rubber mallet just there on the exhausting, but very gently only. Again, there's no gasket on it, so I normally would put the gaskets on, but it appears as if whoever did this previously used the flexible gasket out of a tube. Inside the barrel is pretty good. There's no major scoring of any description. There's actually none at all, to be quite honest. So it's good. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off these 4 studs. Now, technically you don't have to take them off, but it makes it a bit easier in my estimation to work on the piston if you do take them off, but that's only my personal opinion. Sometimes they're so stuck that they will not actually come off at all. So we'll see how we get on anyway. It's very damp here in Ireland this morning, so when I built my shed for the motorbikes, I put a carport outside as well, which allows me to work outside in days that are reasonably warm but raining. To get the piston off, there's a small little spring washer in here which must be taken out so that the pin can be driven out at the other side. That's the little spring washer that I've taken out there now. I've noticed on this engine that the vapor blaster did say to me that there was a crack on the casing. And there it is, and you can actually see that there's actually oil leaking out of the crack. The pin is out now, so the piston can be taken off. That's it. Right. The next operation is to take off the chain drive. And to get this off, one needs a pullers, because there's a woodruff key inside which it sits into, and it's difficult to get it off. I'm just noticing now as well with this that all the prongs, they're all curved, so I think we'll have to replace it. We can see the damage to the side casing there now a bit better. There's actually more cracks up along there, so that side casing will have to be replaced or else aluminium welded, but I think I'll just replace it. The problem is now I'll have two casings that look very shiny and the other casing that won't, so I'll probably take one of my other casings to the vapor blaster and get it cleaned. I've managed to get the nut off the spring washer, and in this case there's a spacer. On any of the other engines I've done, I've never come across a spacer which was sitting like so. Maybe some reason for it, but anyway, there's a spacer on this one. Next thing to do now is to get the pullers to pull this off. The pullers now is in place, so I have to turn this to get it to rise it up. So hopefully that will come off easy enough. It can be difficult at times. Okay, it's after disengaging, so it's easy to take it out now. So that's that part. I'm looking for the woodruff key, which I can't see. It's actually down further there for some reason, and it shouldn't be. The woodruff key should engage on that slot, but it's down a long ways on that one for some reason. Okay. Right, what do we do next? We need to take off this clutch lever here by taking off these two spring washers, and then we can undo all the bolts to take off the casing. For some unknown reason, this engine has got absolutely unbelievable abuse. This oil seal here is even badly damaged. The side of the casing around it is badly damaged. So somebody really got annoyed with this engine when they were dealing with it. All the bolts now, they're all undone. Now what I like to do is, I have a sketch of the engine and I have it marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So some of the bolts are the same length, but I do like to just put them into one place with marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and then I know that I always start here at number 1 and go to the right 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the bolts are out of the engine cover now, and I've put them on and drilled a hole in the board and put them all into the board, and that's the sketch of where they all go back, just to put them all back into the same holes. I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm actually going to, because this cover is very badly cracked, I'm going to use this instead of having the paper. I'm going to use this as to mark down where the screws go. And I'll keep that in the shed. Next operation now is to get this casing off. So that's going to require a bit of brute force and ignorance with the mallet, rubber mallet, and well, with this one I can't do any more damage than is already done to it anyway, so we'll see how it goes. Well, if it was a good cover, it wouldn't come off at all for me, but like everything, some things just come flying off, as this one is doing. So there it goes, and there's the inside of it. So that seal there would have to be replaced in any event. It's an oil seal, and possibly replace that seal as well. It depends on what it's like on the other cover. So that's what the engine looks like inside. The next operation is, now normally this bearing comes off with the cover, but that's going to have to come off next, and then I must take off the clutch cup. And the first thing to do is to take off, there's a spring washer down here that must be taken off with a screwdriver for that clutch cup to come off. I'm just noticing now inside here there appear to be, there's a spring washer in there which is sitting on its own, and I don't know that that is correct, but I'll have a look at another 3-speed engine and see what the story is with that spring washer that is there. It wasn't coming out easy, so I'm out to putting the pullers on it to pull it up, and it's coming out easily that way without sticking screwdrivers in to damage the wheels here. Right, the bearing is after coming off, and as you can see, I think you can see there, it's an SKF 6201. That's the bearing that goes inside that cover there. SKF 6201. To be taken off is this little spacer washer here. That's the spacing washer below the bearing. Right, this is the circlip holding the clutch cup. You have to press down on that end of it with a screwdriver for it to come out. That's the back section of it, the back lip that holds it. So with a flat screwdriver you press down on it to get it out on one corner of it normally, and then you may have to do the second corner and it pops out then. Okay, remove the clutch cup. Sometimes this comes off easy, and sometimes it can be very difficult. It can be really hard to pull it off, but in this case it came off very easily. So I've just cleaned it off there a bit. What I do with parts when I'm dealing with them then is I put them into, you know, jars that I can actually see what's inside them, and I put similar items together that come off of a particular place, so all the clutch pieces are all going into this box here so that we know what's what. The next thing to do now is to take off, undo this nut and take off the spring mechanism here, and that is a very difficult operation unless you have this implement, which you can buy from the NSU spares people that sell spares for NSU Quicklies. This is to compress the spring, so you have to put bolt number 7 and bolt number 5 back into the engine to compress it down so that you can get all this mechanism off. Right, I have that in place there now with bolt number 5 and bolt number 7. So I can now undo this nut easily, and then when I take off this tensioner, all these mechanisms here will all come off easily. Okay, the nut is off now, and there's also a spring washer in there, but this needs to be taken off now and all these mechanisms will come apart. Okay, I've loosened all the bolts there now, and this thing can be taken off. So you need to put the bolts back where they're supposed to be. Number 5 and number 7. Okay, now it's important when taking all these pieces out to make sure that you put them back the way they come off. Right, spring washer is next. There's actually 2 of them. Then there's the spring, and there's a little cup on top of it. Now that cup normally comes off, but in this case it hasn't come off. So you can see the way it goes on. The curved part goes down. I'll take it off. Okay. You can see the flat section there. That's the flat section that the spring washers went onto and the bolt. If we take this off, you can see that there's a curvy section. That's the section that goes into this, like so. And that's the way it goes back on. So take those off. The next thing to do is to take off this fella here. It's another bearing. Alright, that's off. Like so. Now, this wheel here has to be pressed down and rotated to get it to pop up. At least it does on a 2-speed engine. This is a 3-speed engine. Right, it's the same as a 2-speed engine. You have to press down hard on it and twist it, and it pops up. I can't do it now with one hand, but I'll do it there again. Okay, it's after disengaging now, so that's the next thing to come out. And then we can see all the dogs, etc. down along there. The clutch cover, which we'll take off next. That's the next thing to come off, all the clutch mechanism. Right, this is the clutch pieces coming off now. This is the top plate. There's actually nothing holding that. It just sits inside, down over the clutch plates themselves. Right, these are the clutch plates, and I noticed on this one now that there's actually 4 or 5 of them. In a 2-speed engine there's only 2. Sorry, there's only 3 of them. Now I'm just looking at the way they're spaced out, so that when I put them back, that's the way I'm going to put them back. This one is like that, and then there's a space between these ones here, which goes down over these cup like that. So the top one is like that and the bottom one is like that. Right, this is one clutch plate. It won't come apart very easily now because it's stuck with oil. Yes, there's actually, right, that's the top one. Then there's a metal plate in this one, which will go back that way anyway. This is the bottom clutch plate, Yes, there's only two of them the same as a 2-speed, but this is the extra item here that's not in a 2-speed. Now, this little guy here, there actually should be a circlip there that has to be taken off, but it's not on this one. Again, whoever worked on this engine, when they were putting on gaskets and everything, there's a pile of stuff. I've taken it all off, but there's a pile of it actually kind of gone into the engine, which it shouldn't have done. Now, to get this off, there are two special implements that you can get from NSU. I'll just open the book there now and show them. Right, here they are in the NSU Quickly Maintenance Manual. Item number 5 there, levers for removing the clutch assembly. Now, I don't actually have them, and I don't think, to be quite honest with you, that they're that effective, because that particular part of the clutch assembly it's very, very difficult. This shows it here, getting them out, but I've taken several engines apart, and to get that to come up is almost an impossibility. I'm just moving it with my hand now. Now, I just use other items that I have there to try and prise in underneath it. But what you have to do is you have to protect these edges here. Or if you're prising that side, make sure that there's plenty of cloth so that no damage is done. So I'll get my tools now and I'll try and get them. Right, this is how I get it off. Plenty cloths. I have a small little hammer there, and you can then beat down on this bar to get it to prise it out. So it was out a minute ago, but even after a couple of minutes it can still be difficult to get it out. There it goes. Now, as I say, there should have been a circlip on that there, but the circlip wasn't on it. Right, so that's the clutch mechanism out, and you can see this is a crankshaft oil seal. Now, I've had trouble with one engine in particular recently for an S23, and the carburetor, the exhaust pipe, everything seems to be fine, and what people have been telling me when I've checked is that air can get in here if the seal isn't sealing properly, and it'll be very difficult to start the engine. So this seal here is one that needs to be replaced. There's probably one at the other side as well. We'll have a look in a minute. I can't turn it over because there's all oil, so I'll have to get a container to get the oil out of it. I'm just letting that oil drain out there before I continue any further. Most of the oil now has gone out of the crankcase, and I've just noticed inside here there's a spacer washer off of something or other. So that came off of something. So we'll have to find out what that came from. It shouldn't be sitting inside in the oil sump. This is the other one, the dog at the bottom there, and underneath that is a small washer that sits on the bearing. So it goes like that. Now, I've just released the gear change lever from that mechanism there, and I did that by taking off these two circlips, one at each side, pressing out this little pin, and You have to be careful. There's a spring and a small little pin inside here, in there, and I've put the little pin back in again with the spring and the pin inside in it, and once I've disconnected that there, the casing okay, I've undone the nut at the other side and this bolt is now coming out. I'm actually going to put it onto my box up here, and I'll put it on there in a separate place. So I've just marked it on there and I've put it onto the piece of timber so that everything is handy and it doesn't get lost. Next operation now is to get this casing away from this casing. So the bolt is gone, so there's nothing to hold it. So we just need to look here and see what the arrangement is with all these gear dogs here. So we just need to look at that and see what goes where. Okay, there's a big one here, a smaller one there, and that goes down onto that dog down at the bottom there. This is attached through the pin. There. So I'll try and take that section apart. Alright, what I'm checking for there now as I'm taking the casing apart is where that dog goes down into the other casing below near the bearing. I'm looking to see if there's a washer there, just in case that it falls off. There isn't one there at the moment, and more than likely there isn't one there anyway. I'm just trying to see exactly what's inside here now before I take it out, and this piece comes out and there is no washer there, which is good. Now there is a washer inside here. There. That's a washer. So that has to stay where it is. Okay. That's it anyway. I'm just looking at it to see if there's damage. There looks to be a piece broken off there. Okay, that's badly worn now, that is. It is badly damaged, so that center section we're going to have to replace. You can see it there. There's chunks off of it. So we should find some metal bits inside in the oil. This engine is after getting a rough time. Okay. Okay, that's the far off side apart. This is the gear changing mechanism. Okay. Noticed inside here now is that this piece here has been damaged as well. It should be straight, but it's all bent at one side. That should be straight. Right, the last part to get out is the conrod. So you have to hit it to get it out. And that's it. It's out. And it's all apart. There should be a rubber seal there, which for some reason is always missing. Just looking at this now, the thread here isn't great. The woodruff key area has been damaged as well, but it might be okay. We'll have to see what I can do with the threading on the top of that.